So hi guys, welcome back to another video, and today's video is my final draft for the upcoming FPL season. So today I'm going to run through the 15 players I chose for game week 1, and it could vary based on injuries, etc, before the game week 1 starts. But as it stands, these are the 15 players I've chose, so I'm going to run through my starting 11, why I chose certain players, etc. So let's get on with the video.
So here is my final team, my final draft for the upcoming FPL season. And as it stands, this is going to be the 15 players that I'm going to start the season with. And it could change based on injuries or if I have a change in mind about what I'm going to do. But as it stands, this is my final team. The only problem is the bench is quite weak, so I may make changes. But as it stands, like I said, this is going to be the team I'm going to start the season with. So in goal, I'm gone with Martinez. So the reasons for picking Martinez are no goalkeeper scored more points than him last season in the Premier League, and not many more teams kept more clean sheets than Aston Villa too. And he only cost $5.5 million, and look at his opening 3 fixtures. Watford, Newcastle and Brentford. Looks beautiful there for Villa and Martinez. The only problem is he is owned by nearly 40% of the game, but that is quite justifiable with all the other positives I've talked about. And also, the positives outweigh the negatives, so that's why I've chosen them. And now the first defender I've chosen is Ruben Diaz. He's pretty self-explanatory, probably the best defender in the Premier League last season. He was outstanding throughout. And Man City can keep clean sheets up against pretty much anyone, so you don't really have to look too much into the fixtures for Man City. And now the next player I've chosen is Kieran Tierney. So this is a bit of a strange one, you may think. Isn't Arsenal's defence a bit rubbish? Aren't Arsenal's defenders associated with being rubbish? Well, they're not the best defenders in the world, but Tierney is a really good one, and I think he could have a really good season for Arsenal if he stays fit throughout. He's the left back that constantly gets down the left-hand side, creates chances for Arsenal, scores goals, and he only costs $5 million, and he's only owned by 8.5% of the game. And with the addition of Ben White, he's going to strengthen Arsenal defensively, but also offensively as well, because when Kieran Tierney bombs forward, he knows he's got a solid defender in Ben White behind him to clear up any mistakes that they make when going forward. And you thought Tierney was super duper differential. Well, look at Castagne. He's only owned by 3.4% of the game. He can play left wing back. He can play right wing back. He gets forward a lot for Leicester. He creates chances for them. He scores goals, and he only costs $5.5 million. And they've got Wolves on the opening day of the season, so a relatively good fixture there for Leicester. And Leicester can beat anyone on their day. You saw yesterday, if you've watched the Community Shield, you probably heard about it. They beat Man City in there 1-0, played really well throughout. They have a confidence. That's what Leicester have. They exude confidence. They constantly play with almost a sort of no fear who they play against, and they play their own game against pretty much anyone they play, which is really good. And obviously, if Leicester want to get top 4 this season, they've got to obviously score goals and create chances and obviously defend well. And Castagne, also being the left wing back and right wing back, he defends but also goes forward. So it looks really good there for Leicester and Castagne, and that's why I brought him into my team. And the next player on the list I chose is Lewis Dunk. So Lewis Dunk had a fantastic season for Brighton last season. Got a total of 130 points. He scored a lot of goals, I think 3 or 4, which is a lot for a defender, especially one for a lower table team. And he kept a lot of clean sheets with Brighton. And I know they've lost Ben White, so there is a big gaping hole in that defence. But if they spend that £50 million well, they could rise up the league and finish higher this season. And Ben White could play a pivotal, Lewis Dunk could play a pivotal part in that. And he only costs $5 million, and he's only owned by 6.8% of the game. And look at his opening 2 fixtures, Burnley and Watford. So it looks good there for Brighton and Lewis Dunk. And now we move on to the midfield, which is probably the strongest bit of my team. And let's start off with the first one being Mo Salah. So a fantastic 4 seasons in the Premier League for Liverpool, and now he's going into his 5th one. And hopefully he can replicate that form, the previous 4, into this one, because I want Liverpool to win the league. I am a Liverpool fan, and I want him to get me fantasy points. And with Norwich in game week 1, it looks good there on paper for Salah and Liverpool, and that's why I captained him. And now the next player I'd chosen was Kai Havertz. So life in Chelsea didn't really start off very well initially, but as the season grew on and as he grew on as a player, he started to adapt to the system, adapt to the Premier League, and he finished the season really well, scoring a goal in the Champions League final. I think he played really well in the Euros, and he could have a really good season for Chelsea this coming season. And if they sign Lukaku as well, the link up this campaign could be really good between the two of them, and quite frightening for opposition players and opposition teams. And at 8.5 million and 13.1%, and Palace in the first game week of the season, I couldn't pass on the opportunity of getting Havertz in my team. And then now the next player I've chosen is Emiliano Buendia. So another Emiliano, and they both play for Aston Villa, but Buendia has got a big role to play this season. Because of the departure of Jack Grealish, there is a big gaping hole in that Aston Villa attack, a void that needs to be filled, and I think Buendia can be the man. If you watched Grealish last season, he was the main creator for Villa. And if you watched Norwich last season, Buendia was pretty much the main creator for them. So now moving from Norwich to Villa for a hefty fee of 35 million, he's got to try and replicate that form that he did for Norwich for Villa, but obviously in a harder league being the Premier League. And with his opening 3 fixtures looking really nice, and his price and his ownership as well, that's the reason why I chose him for my team. And the next player on the list that I have chosen is Rafinha. So reasonings for picking Rafinha is a fantastic first season in the Premier League, looked really sharp, and played in a really good Leeds side. And you may say, Zach, look at the fixtures, they're really tough. Why choose Leeds players? Well, Leeds can pretty much score against anyone, especially if they're on form, and especially if they're playing well. They're a fluid counter-attacking team, they're a fluid attacking team, they press a lot, and Rafinha last season was a pivotal part in that, and I expect him to be this season as well. And that also leads to why I chose Bamford as well, because he was brilliant last season. He was constant threat, he played in that number 9 position, he linked up well with the rest of the attackers in that Leeds team, and at 8 million, he's cheap as chips, and same with Rafinha, he's cheap as chips as well. So that's why I've chosen both of them, despite their tough fixtures on paper. And now we move on to the big boy himself, probably the most controversial player in my team. You're probably thinking, Zach, why have you chose Kane? He's probably got a lot of transfer speculation going on in his mind. He's probably got the Euros on his mind. He's probably got what's his future in football on his mind. But he is a fantastic player and a true professional, and I expect him to get goals this season. And pretty much he scores whoever he plays against. And that link up with Son is not all gone just because of the Euros and a bit of a poor form here and there, maybe in the Euros as well. It's not all gone. You can still probably get back to playing well with Son and score goals and create chances for Tottenham. And he was probably, the best player in the Premier League last season? Possibly, debatably. I think Diaz, but a lot of people said Harry Kane. And you're not going to go quiet after being the best player in the league last season. Well, you would doubt it anyway. And him and Son could link up and score a lot of goals for Tottenham, and obviously if you have either of them in your FPL team. And yes, I know my bench is quite weak, but I've thrown all my eggs in the starting 11 basket, and hopefully they will do well for my team.
So yeah, that was my team right there, guys. Put in the comment section below if you have any questions about FPL, what players you should bring in, etc, etc. But anyway, guys, thank you for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll catch you in the next one.